Hi, this is Samantha with stampschool.com. Today I'm going to show you how to stamp a background with your acrylic blocks instead of a stamp. Look that you got here on this background, the orange and the yellow here. I also did it on this card using two colors that are just a little bit shade off from each other. So I'll show you both of those and I'll show you a couple different sizes. The stamp I'm going to use today, the stamp set, is Natural Landscape from Stamp School. It's one of our January release sets. And I'm going to use this tree stamp to show one. And let's do this little cattail set here for the other one. What I like to do is know the stamps I'm going to use first, and then I pick my acrylic block according to the stamp. So to show you the tree, I'm going to use this block because it's about the same size as my stamp, a little bit bigger, nice background image. And for the little cattails, I'm going to use about that block because it fits on there nicely. I have a couple sheets of paper that are roughly the size that I want. What I like to do when doing this technique, because it's not exact, is to have a sheet of paper slightly larger than what I'm going to want. And then after I stamp it, I just trim it down to the size I want, what looks best with what I'm working with. You can see I left a little bit of an edge on this one. On this one, I left just a teeny tiny edge. So that way you can kind of play around and decide what looks best with your card and you're not stuck trying to line things up perfectly. Any flat acrylic block will work. This is Fisker's. Tim Holtz makes a really nice block for this. If you have any of the Rocka blocks, those will not work as well since they're round. Actually, they won't work at all. They're meant to keep the block off your paper. You're going to want a nice flat block. When you're inking up your block, you're going to use the flat, smooth side that you'd normally put your stamp on. You don't want to use the grid side if your acrylic block has a grid. I'll start by showing you the two-tone sort of same color. You're going to want a light and a dark. I'm using Snow Cone and Blue Raspberry from the Pop Tone ink. You're going to start with your lightest color. That way, if you accidentally get any ink from your block transferred over onto your second stamp pad, you're not going to see it. That light ink isn't going to show up on your dark ink pad where it might the other way around. You're going to ink this almost like you're inking a stamp. I'm going about halfway. Depending on the look you're going for, you can go more than halfway, a little bit less. I want to go just about halfway, so I'm splitting down the center just a little bit extra. I want a little bit of that ink to overlap. And it's a little hard to see because this is a light color blue. I'll put it on my white there. I don't know if you can see it's inked up. I can see here that there's ink on there. Just because you don't see the color really strongly doesn't mean it's not working. Just means you've got a lighter color ink that you're working with. You're going to take your second color. Now I've got my light blue here, so I'm going to do my Snow Cone here. I'm going to do my darker on the other half then. And I'm just going to press down and kind of get it inked up, and you can probably see that one a little bit better. I'm just going to flip it over and stamp as if there were a stamp on there. I'm going to give it a good firm push, and you come away with your square stamped image then, a little bit lighter on top, darker on the bottom. And if I was doing this for myself, I would quick wipe my block off. But since, for time's sake, I'll just leave it for you. I've got the black licorice ink here that I'm going to use, and you can then stamp an image directly over the top of it. And you've got a sort of two-tone faded background then using an acrylic block instead of using a stamp. I'll show it to you one more time with some darker colors, a little bit smaller image. One of the benefits to these Pop Tone ink pads is that they have the lids are hinged on. You're never hunting and looking for the lids to your ink pads. I don't know if you do that. I do that a lot. We don't have an orange released yet for the pop tones, so I have my Tim Holtz Distress ink and the Spice Marmalade. Any dye-based ink is going to work well. You can use a pigment-based ink. It's going to be a little bit harder to clean off your block. The dye-based inks work really, really well because they just wipe right off your block when you're done. Again, I'm gonna do orange and red on this one. So my orange is a little bit lighter. I'm gonna start with that one. This is my smaller image. So I've got my smaller block inked up with the orange. You can see that nice and bright on there. And then I'm going to do my red. And again, you can see it's nice and bright on there. And all I'm going to do is stamp again, just like I would if it was a stamp. And again, you've got your two-tone image there. You can add your inked up stamps to it. I'm going to use a little hot fudge here, which is the pop tone brown. And again, you're going to want to clean your block in between. Stamp it. Add some tops to it. And I've got another image done. Then you can add those to your cards like you normally would. And you can play around with it and get different images. It's going to look different every time because it's not a contoured stamp. Some inks are going to bead on your blocks more than others. Some are going to give you a more streaky effect, and so you can play around and get different looks. I'd love to see you link up, put links to your version of this technique if you give it a try. I'd love to see what you do with it. Thanks for tuning in today.